G'day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mad Dragons vodcast. We've just polished off round 11. I'm joined today by Matt Hasler, Benny O'Brien, and Darren Young. Not as big a group as usual, but it should be a great episode. But going through the list of our unavailable players for this game against the Sharks: Michaeli Ravalawa, Tyrell Fuamoano, Josh Maguire, Cameron McGuinness, Jack DeBellin, Zach Lomax, Matt Duffy, Matt Finai, Tarek Sims, Braden Williami, Bud Sullivan, Josh Corrick. Add to that losing Cody Ramsey, Max Finai, and Jaden Hunt during the course of the game to HIA, and Billy Burns went off for an assessment as well, plus the sin bin to Paul Vaughan. Go through that list, and it's pretty amazing that we only lost by a single point in golden point extra time. Before we get into our game, I would like to chat generally about the NRL at the moment, rugby league, how it's going, how you're feeling about the crackdown. The crackdown continues. I know I'm finding it increasingly difficult to actually watch games. So how are you guys feeling about the sin bin? We'll start with you, Youngie.
Yeah, I'm in two minds about this because I can see what they're trying to do. They're worried about lawsuits down the track, so they're trying to cut out all the head-high tackles, and they're going real severe on it. But on the other side of the coin, it's not a great spectacle, is it? It's frustrating for a fan to watch, and it's not what we're used to.
No, it's certainly not. And, you know, I kind of feel like you're right, they are. They're trying to avoid lawsuits in the future that may or may not happen. But what's the point of avoiding lawsuits if there's no game? Because that's the way that they're heading.
That's right.
People are switching off in their thousands at the moment. I saw a poll today, thousands of people voting on it. 60% of people have either already turned off or are seriously considering turning the game off. 60% of rugby league fans are saying that they're looking to walk away from the sport. You got anything further to add, Benny?
It's sort of like what I said last week. It's not the game we know and love. And like Youngie said, I can understand why they're doing it, but the way they're going about it, probably not too, they're trying to implement something sort of a third of the way through the season. Like if this was a mandate they were going to put through, they should have had it from the start of the season. So, like I was watching the press conference after the Sharks game, and the Sharks coach was saying, we've now got to reteach these players how to tackle. They were taught, to sort of go up around the chest area, to wrap that ball up, to stop the second phase play. So that they're going to have to retrain them to now go back down low and get that out of their game. So preseason would have been the perfect time for them to start implementing those changes. But to bring it in halfway through, like we've seen, it's a shock. And you can understand why the fans are upset about it and don't understand it. But it's obviously something they're going to persist with. So, the players are just going to have to be wary of it because they're going to get sin bin, they're going to get sent off, they're going to get put on report. But in saying that too, I think obviously there's a lot of indiscretion about a lot of the calls that have been made too about, what's a sin bin, what's a penalty, what's a send off. So it's very, very confusing at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's certainly incredibly confusing. And again, I come back to that whole thing of what is it that they're actually trying to eradicate from the game? Because some of the ones that are going to the sin bin, you're never going to get them out of the game. Like, we'll talk about our one later on, so I want to talk about ones that happened in other games. The Dylan Napa one in the Bulldogs game, it was a light little feather touch with a bloke that was falling. He barely touched his head and ends up in the sin bin. I mean, ones like that, you just sit there and you shake your head. And the Victor Radley one, he comes through and puts pressure on the kicker. It was just a big, strong, physical tackle. You're not allowed to tackle hard anymore. Is that the way you're seeing it, Matty?
You're exactly right, Donny. I'm dead set with Youngie on this one. I get what they're trying to do, but what I can't deal with is the absolute inconsistencies of it. It's just way too inconsistent. I don't think the referees even have been fully briefed on exactly how they're supposed to do it. That's the problem. Like I've been watching a lot of the games last couple of weeks. I'm just sitting there shaking my head half the time.
I weep for how this is going to impact State of Origin and seeing this sort of thing implemented in our showpiece game. That's when we're going to have, those casual fans, the people that aren't necessarily rugby league fans. That's when they tune in to watch rugby league, and they're going to see this shit. And
that's exactly it, Donny. Can we just say this State of Origin goes overseas to America? Imagine when the Americans see this and they see like a touch to the head and that's a penalty.
Oh, they're going to laugh. We're becoming the laughing stock of the sporting world. Soccer players are probably looking and going, "Oh, sweet, we probably play rugby league now."
yeah. And
cool.
And that's the thing though, is that there's so many choices. So if you're pissed off with rugby league, maybe you switch over and you watch an AFL game. Maybe you go and watch a basketball game, go and watch the NBL, or flick over to the NBA, or
watch a union.
Exactly. There's so many different options. I mean, it's KO's packed full of different sports that are live right now. So if they want to drive people away from the game, everyone's got plenty of other options that they can look at. So yeah, and I think that's what they're looking at doing. So drive people to watch different sports. But we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully a little bit of common sense starts to come into it before too long. We'll get into our game. Benny, Dragons made a host of changes to their lineup before kickoff. Do you think the team we started with was better than the team that was named on Tuesday? And could they have made it even better than it was?
I guess you got to look at the reason for the changes. Was there something that Hook could see, or was predicting for the early stages of the game? And I think Vaughan coming off the bench was probably a good thing. I've mentioned it a couple of times, having Laurie and Vaughan on the field at the same time, and then both going off, and then Ellis and Alvaro coming on, and the whole intensity just drops. So I think having one or the other on the field worked well, but I think Vaughan was on after 10 or 12 minutes anyway, so it didn't really have the effect that was sort of going for. But yeah, what's Hook got to work with, really? You know what I mean? Like you said, opening, our roster is that depleted at the moment between suspensions and injuries. You may as well just pick numbers out of a hat for who plays where at the moment. I don't think there's many players playing in their preferred positions, and at least not our full strength players playing in their preferred positions. So you do the best with what you got, and I think that's what they were trying to do. And yeah, I think obviously we'll get into the game, but I think the first sort of 10, 15 minutes we really gave them a real good stick, and the game should have been a lot closer than what it was, I think. But yeah,
well, couldn't get closer than what it was, mate.
I think just not on the scoreboard, but I think the intensity of the game. We should have had a much better account for ourselves than what we did. I had the feeling the first 10, 15 minutes that we were going to really go on with it and do a good number on them, but it just didn't happen like that. So.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of have a look at the changes, and looking at the changes that were made, I sort of tend to agree that having either Vaughan or Laurie start from the bench gives us that punch off the bench. And as you say, it doesn't have them both off the field at the same time, which I think is a good thing. But again, like you said, I think it was 13 minutes into the game where Paul Vaughan came on, and it didn't really change that much about our structure and how it sort of played out. But Junior Ramon going into the centres, I don't know how much centre he's played before. And I think, a young bloke playing in an unfamiliar position. And personally, I think centre is the hardest position on the field. I think it's the most difficult position to defend, and even in attack, it's very different to any other spot on the field. And I think it's a hard role to play, and I think it's a real specialist spot. So yeah, I thought he scrambled okay defensively, but he did look a little bit at sea a couple of times, and I think he had something like 9 missed tackles through the game. So I don't know that he was overly comfortable there, but you could certainly see some of his skills in some of his touches throughout the game. But I wouldn't want him being a regular in the centres. I think he's certainly going to be better at other things. Billy Burns, he played 71 minutes. I know he was certainly in the wars with a couple of things that we'll talk about. Victim of a crusher tackle and a high shot, but in 71 minutes, played a lot of that as a running forward. He ran for a total of 39 metres. I don't think that's good enough. Palasa Farmasili, he started in the front row, played through the middle third of the field, 48 minutes of game time. Again, ran for just 35 metres. We need a hell of a lot more than that out of a bloke that's starting in the front row. So I don't know that too many of the changes that he made were actually came in and played the role that they needed to play. He was perfect defensively, though, Farmasili. I think that's been something that I've certainly been critical of, is the fact that he bounces off tackles. Didn't do that at all in this game, so that was good. The other positives, I thought Jackson Ford was really good for us throughout that game. He ran for nearly 100 metres, did his job, and looked dangerous at times when he moved out to the edge as well. And Adam Clune, we just look a better team when Adam Clune's on the field, don't we? As soon as he came on, he made a big difference to our attack. I don't think we scored a point until he came onto the field. So apart from the penalty goal right on half time, but I just think we look a much better team when he's out there. Talking about, Benny sort of brought up that opening 10 minutes. So we'll talk about the sin bins next, but Matty, that first 10 minutes up until the Sharks' first try, how did you think the Dragons' start was?
It was one of the better starts that we've sort of had in recent times. You got to remember too that we are missing a lot of top line personnel. So for them to go out and hang with Cronulla for as well as they did in the first 10 minutes and even in the first half, I thought that was a good effort.
Yeah, I thought we started pretty well. I did think again that the Sharks looked a few times like they were going to score a try before their first try, and we didn't look like we were going to hold them out, but we kept scrambling and getting players and working really hard for each other to try and keep them out. And even the try that they scored, they didn't create an overlap. It was a 2-on-2, and Jordan Pereira slipped over in the dewy conditions to let Connor Tracy get that first try. So the Sharks didn't really offer all that much. I didn't thinking that those opening exchanges, but pretty interesting start to the game, and I think the Dragons were right in it from the outset. All right, Youngie, the Paul Vaughan sin bin. Take us through it.
Well, he did connect with the head, but only grazed his head at that. So is it a sin bin? By the letter of the law, possibly yes, but God, it looks soft to watch, doesn't it?
Mate, if Will Chambers gets up, plays the ball, I don't think the video ref even looks at it. If he just gets up and plays, because he was not hurt. He wasn't hurt at all. He played for it. I reckon if he just gets up, plays the football, the video ref does not even look at a replay of that. And he ends up in the sin bin. Yeah. Absolute bullshit.
Well, they've just got a line in the sand at the moment where it says, if you hit the head in any way, it's a penalty. So I don't know. I definitely think they have to retweet this before, as you said earlier, fans start walking away in droves, because it's looking pretty. It's really is an ordinary look at the moment for the game.
Yeah. So, Benny, with this one, is it something that they need to take into account the body position of the player that gets hit? Because this one, Chambers got folded in half. I think it was Andrew McCulloch down low, beautiful technique, dropped him. And that was the only reason for the slight contact with the head. It was nothing aggressive about the tackle from Vaughan at all. As Mick would say, he's too nice to be a front rower. He doesn't have all that much aggression, Paul Vaughan.
Yeah, 100%. I said it, when we were chatting during the game. If he's upright, Vaughan connects with his ribs. You know what I mean? It's only the fact that he physically, his body position was lower because he was being tackled, that Vaughan's arm happened to connect with his head. But it's like I said last week, where are you going to put your arms? What's Vaughan meant to do? You either commit to the tackle or you don't. That's the thing I don't understand. They're not taking, like you said, body positioning into account. They're not taking physics into account. You got players in motion, you can't just dead stop a player when he's committed to a tackle because the opposition has changed his body position, and it's not just our game it's happening in, it's all of them, and this is the stupid thing about it. And even like Youngie said, if you touch the head anywhere, it's a penalty. But where does it go from a penalty to a sin bin, and where does it go from a sin bin to a send-off? There needs to be, like Youngie said, there needs to be some clear lines in the sand saying, okay, well, this warrants a sin bin. This warrants a send-off. This warrants a penalty, because it's just at the total discretion of not even the ref. It's the bunker that's sending these calls through, because half the time, like we said last week, you see it in the ref's face. He's like, oh, shit, I'm going to have to make a call on this. And I reckon they just want to get on with playing bloody footy as well. They're probably sick of having stops every 5 minutes as well. It's just ridiculous. And a big bloke like Vaughan, where's he meant to go?
And I think you made the point last week, Benny. If he does have the reflexes of the Flash and is able to pull his arm out of the way, he gets done for a shoulder charge because he's not using his arms.
Yeah, exactly right. And even the Dugan one, we might probably touch on it later, but Dugan had absolutely no intent of attacking the head. You know what I mean? You could see he was changing direction. His body was facing this way, and he just happened to stick his arm out because he's tired. It's the 60th minute. You know what I mean? And he accidentally flips him on the face. Fair enough, it was a good whack, but there was no intent in that. He wasn't going out to take the dude's head off. It's not rugby league.
Yeah.
You can't slow it down either. It happens in motion. So.
Oh, that's the thing too, everyone's going, the bugger have got all these slow-mo replays. But, where anybody can slow it down to, 1/10 of a frame a second and see the slightest little bump or connect with the bridge of the nose, but you look at it in real time, and like you said, Chambers gets up and plays the ball, it's nothing. Not even a penalty. But they slow it down and look at every tiny nuance of the action, and they can obviously find something out of anything, And that's the same too. I was looking at the game, and you got players on the ground, and you got other players coming over the top and connecting forearms with the backs of their heads and stuff like that. That can cause a concussion as well as. Yeah, exactly right. That can cause a concussion as bad as clipping somebody on the bridge of the nose from a swinging arm. So if they're going to have the rule, they've got to make it consistent. If that's what they're trying to get out of the game, these head shot injuries, then it has to be a blanket over all of the actions that affect striking of the head.
Yeah, Chambers is a dog for staying down, just absolute dead set cat. Get up and play the ball. He was not hurt at all. Just I hate the fact that he stays down. He was perfectly fine to play the ball, but they decide then to have a look at it because he pretends to be hurt. We can't be encouraging players to do that. And I thought we'd got it from it, and now we're back to it again.
It's unsportsmanlike. You know what I mean? To me, it's just, like you said, it's a bit of a dog act. It's
Where we start giving penalties for staying down.
Yeah. But
maybe we need to think about that.
But even in the game, how many times did you hear the ref call milking against Cronulla?
Yeah.
Penalise him. There's no point saying, you're milking it. Penalise him. They're happy to penalise us for every little thing, and that's the thing I don't like about it, the inconsistency. It doesn't sit well with you.
Yeah. Vaughan got that crusher tackle late, and he probably milked it a little bit to get the penalty to level the
100%.
scores. But there was one with Billy Burns where there was a clear crusher. I thought it was a crusher watching it live the first time I saw it and couldn't believe it wasn't called. He held the back of his head, but then gets up and plays the ball. We get through the end of our set. That was the one where he gets put on report, but we don't get a penalty. We get no benefit from it at all. After it was put on report, the Sharks got a scrum feed about where we probably would have found touch if we had got a penalty from it. So again, inconsistency when you compare it to last week where they went back 6 tackles to award a penalty. So again, it happens against us, so we don't get the advantage of it.
Yeah.
Very frustrating. Anyway, so dying stages of the first half, Matty. The Sharks made a clean break, went straight through, looked certain to score. Across comes Ben Hunt with a beautiful cover tackle on Moylan. Then manages to get to marker, and the Sharks puts pressure on the Sharks dummy half. He puts in a shit kick. The Dragons then counter-attack with Ramsey making a 60-metre run before he gets taken high. How did you see this passage of play, mate? And talk us through everything that happened afterwards.
Beautiful tackle from Hunt. It's something I've been really impressed with lately is his defence. Then Cody going for his little 60-metre sprint. I reckon if that had been Duffy, I reckon he probably would have scored. But I think it's what could have been. It was a beautiful passage of play, and yeah, look, I think we were a little bit unlucky.
And I think Cody Ramsey gets taken high there, smacked in the head. If he's able to, like, if it's a normal tackle, he gets a good quick play the ball. We're on the front foot. There's a great chance. We had a full set of 6. Great chance for us to score points there. But Perotti comes across and he had anywhere that he could have tackled Ramsey, anywhere. And he makes the option to go high. Swinging arm hits him in the head. Ramsey concussed. He didn't play any further part in the game. Is there a case this one should have been a send-off, Youngie?
I was about to say the same thing. I was thinking, given the intent of that should have actually been a send-off. And that's bias aside. I mean, that was clear intent. At any point, he had a chance to weigh that tackle up, and that's where he went. So, and hit him clean. So, there's definitely a case that should have been a send-off, and they should have been playing with 12 men.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a broken record, but when you're talking about the types of tackles that you want to rub out of the game, those ones where the defender has a choice, where he has an option, where he can make a different decision, they're the ones that we can get rid of. They're the ones we can stamp out of the game. Tackles like that's the one that should be a send-off. Now, a lot of people will be watching this and they'll watch the vision and they'll think the Josh Dugan one was worse. But I agree with Benny. That one was one where he got wrong-footed. It's one of those ones that you're never going to really get out of the game. He was tired. It was a lazy arm. It makes flush contact with the nose, sure, but I don't think the Dugan one was a send-off. I think this one was. I think this one was should have been a send-off. He had plenty of other options, plenty of other different ways that he could have made that tackle. In any case, Benny, entertaining first half. I kind of felt like both teams could have scored half a dozen tries each, but we went to the break and it was only 6-2. What were your thoughts overall on the opening 40 minutes?
Yeah, similar to yourself, and like I said earlier, I think there was a lot more points in that half. And maybe if these rule changes weren't implemented the way they have been, it could have been, because even so, like I said when we first saw this, it's so demoralising having something like that happen, and it can turn a game and definitely turn the attitude of the players. So I think they were playing a lot more conservative brand of football because of that. You're down to 12 players. You're obviously not going to be throwing the ball around as much, and you're obviously going to muscle up in defence because you're playing a man short and you've got to cover more ground. You've got to make sure you commit to your tackles. So obviously you're not focusing on scoring points at that time. You sort of go into emergency mode and just trying to cover your asses. So, yeah, I think it would have been a much more exciting game if there was a few more points scored. But in saying that too, it could have gone either way. Cronulla could have got a few more tries under the belt. So I think leading into halftime with it as close as it was probably pretty reflective of the game, to be honest. But yeah. Second half obviously was a different story.
Yeah, no, I think it was a case of both teams lacking that polish, and understandable for the Dragons because of the number of outs that we had to lack that last pass, the polish on the end of the plays that would have resulted in points. And there's probably not too many excuses that the Sharks have got, apart from the fact that they're a pretty bloody ordinary football team. So. Just
I thought the difference was Kennedy though.
Oh yeah, and William Kennedy was a
great game.
He was great throughout, but I think if our fullback had been out there for the full 80 minutes, then he was looking at a 280-metre game at halftime, but didn't play any part in the second half. So I think Kennedy aside, the difference in this game was the fact that we ran out of troops. We had three HIAs, three players that weren't able to finish the game, and that's the Sharks themselves have experienced the exact same thing earlier in the season where they had three HIAs and they ran out of puff at the back end. And I think the same thing happened with us in this game. But in any case, we'll move into some general NRL stuff. So one of the articles that I saw this week was the NRL looking to introduce forward pass technology. So putting a chip in the ball to be able to determine definitively whether the ball is backwards or forwards out of the hands. Do you see this as a positive thing, Matty, or do you think it's just something else the NRL can stuff up?
Probably a bit of that, Donny. Look, I mean, one thing that's always pissed me off about the bunker is the fact that they can't rule on forward passes, and I've seen a lot of tries scored against the Dragons and against just with other sides as well, where there's an obvious forward pass. Everyone in the bloody stadium knows it, but the bunker can't rule on it because of this stupid rule they've got. Now, they introduce this technology, it'll eradicate that, but at the same time, it is going to slow things down.
Yeah, and the game's probably slow enough as it is. Yeah, that's probably my...
If you're going to introduce this sort of thing, then, I mean, what the fuck are the touch judges doing?
That's a fair question. That's a fair question. You take away a big part of their responsibility. I mean, we surely we can use technology, the same technology they use at the tennis to work out if anybody touches the line or goes over it. Do we need touch judges anymore if we bring in this?
Well, they're pretty much just putting the flags up behind the post at this point anyway, so you might as well just get rid of them.
Yeah, they don't seem to earn their rather significant pay packets. That's for sure. But all right, one of the other things that I've seen this week, and I'll be interested to get your thoughts on this, Youngie. Some talk of getting Anthony Milford for next year to replace Corey Norman. What are your thoughts on that?
Not for me, mate. No, I like some of our halves coming through. I'd rather focus on that. Anthony Milford hasn't done anything for 4 years, and especially in $1 million. Well, even if you offered him half that, I'm still not impressed. So, yeah, no, I don't know what anyone else thinks, but I'd pass.
Yeah, no, I think you go, Benny.
As I say, I'd rather keep Norman, and that's big coming from me. So,
oh shit!
Wow, I didn't say
like
that.
That's a massive call.
No, like Youngie said, I don't think Milford's done much lately, and the money that he'll be asking for, it's just going to be another Norman. Like we've spoken about numerous times on the VOD, our juniors coming through. That's the future of this club for the next 3 to 5 years, and that's what we got to invest in, and that's what we've got to focus on for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Has he got history with those guys that we've got from Brisbane?
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise
me. Does he go that far back? Yeah, that might be the link. It might actually happen.
We're going to end up being South Brisbane with the way it's going.
Yeah, no, it's one of those ones that it seems to get brought up every now and then. It doesn't seem to have a lot of fans, and I tend to agree with Youngie and Benny in that. We'd be replacing one underperforming 5'8" with another underperforming 5'8". It doesn't seem to make too much sense to me at all. And we've got these great young talents coming through. So I chuck the kids in, just get rid of Norman and don't sign anybody to replace him. We already have the replacements for Corey Norman in our squad. Just put your
I want to see Bud Sullivan get a kick.
Well, he's back this week, so he'll be available for selection. But once again, even further down on troops again. But we'll see how he goes. Jersey Flegg prior to the NRL game on Friday night. They had a thrilling win, which was fantastic. But this is the first and the only time in 2021 that the under-21s play at the same venue on the same day as the NRL side. Would you like to see the young blokes that are coming up through our system, would you like to be able to see them a little bit more often before the NRL game, Youngie?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That was part of the spectacle. When you went to a game, you'd go and watch the lower grades, the under-21s, the reserves, right to the first grade. I prefer that system. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that Peter Vlandis talked about. This was something that he wanted to bring in from this year, was the match day experience where there is the 3 games all on the same day. We don't get it at all. So there's a few other clubs that do have the 3 games on game day. The Dragons do not get it once this year. And there's a couple of times during the course of the year where all 3 teams playing on the same day against the same club, but the under-21s will play at a different venue. And it doesn't make any sense to me at all. Why? I don't understand. I agree. I'd love to see more people actually get the opportunity to see these young blokes. And then when I start waxing lyrical about how good they are, other people would have seen them too. At the moment, it feels like, I'm one of the only ones that knows what's going on with the young blokes. And, a handful of others that get down to watch them at these local suburban grounds because...
Well, you're spot on. I rarely get to see any of the younger guys go around. So, and especially living down here in Melbourne, we don't get it that much. So it's kind of hard.
Yeah, very difficult. No,
I think too, with the landscape of the game at the moment, like a lot of these players are up into first grade and then, dropping back down to the lower grades. So it's not like they're all unknowns. You go and see a couple of the junior grades play, then 3 or 4 of the blokes out there by name, and obviously you look how they interact with the other players, and I always had a few favourites coming through when I used to go and watch the junior grades, and I think the footy's a bit more expansive too in the younger grades. They throw the footy around a bit more. The hits are a bit bigger sometimes because they don't really have to stress about the bunker or the video ref coming down on them for something. So. It's good footy, and I think like you said, it just doesn't make sense that they're not trying to line them up, because it's obviously better for the home clubs to have 2 or 3 games on at the venue. They're going to make more money, they're going to sell more hot dogs, more bums on seats, and more beers. So you know what I mean. If Vlandis is worried about monetising everything in the NRL, then this is what he should be focusing on.
All right, well, in this Jersey Flegg game, led 10-0 after 15 minutes, but it was a real arm wrestle after that. It was still 10-0 at half-time. The Sharks stormed back into it, and they looked like they were going to be the winners, leading 18-16 with 10 minutes to play. But it was young SG ball stealer Ben Johnson playing in the centres. He scored a try with 2.5 minutes to go that put us in front, and we went on to win the game 24-18. So a great win for our under-21s. This was 3rd against 4th as well. So 2 teams right up there with the best of them. We'll take a bit of a break here from the Mad Dragons vodcast. The next topic, I think, needs a bit more than 2 minutes that we've got left here. So we'll come back and we'll get into the second half and a few other topics.
That's how it's done, Corey Norman!
Well, g'day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Mad Dragons vodcast. And the reason why we decided to take a break then is because this next topic does tend to get people a little bit hot under the collar, and I thought it might take a bit longer than the 2 minutes we had left. Jack de Belin due back in court this Friday. Most people seem to think that after this Friday, the DPP is going to decide against going ahead with a third trial. And if that happens, Jack de Belin might be available to play in the New South Wales Cup on Saturday. What are your thoughts around this, Matty?
Well, if it does go down that way, that's massive for us. Definitely the right call, bringing him into New South Wales Cup before bringing him back into the top grade, purely because the speed of the game's changed so much and he needs to sort of experience that in a game situation. So I think it's a good idea from that standpoint. But having said that, would equally love to see him straight back in the 13 jersey for the NRL side ASAP.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we've got a game on Friday night, so he won't be. He's not going to be eligible to be picked on Tuesday. Therefore, he can't play for the NRL side on the Friday night straight after getting the charges dropped or dismissed or whatever the right terminology is. But I suppose theoretically he could play a couple of games in New South Wales Cup, and I suppose the game I have lined up as the possible return of Jack de Belin to first grade Youngie is the public holiday Monday game against the Canterbury Bulldogs. What do you reckon about that?
What better game to bring him back? The Bulldog supporters, and I know a lot of them, were heavily involved in the media when this happened. So it'd be good to see him back for that particular game. Yeah. Regardless of what you think about de Belin, there's a reason that 2 juries couldn't find him guilty. There's significant doubt about whether he's guilty, and they're the ones that have listened to this case.
Yeah, no. At the end of the day, if he doesn't get convicted, then there's nothing's preventing him from coming back into the side. I think there will be mixed feelings with him coming back in, just amongst Dragons fans, and I don't think that the feelings at all will be mixed between the fans of other clubs. And how do you think Jack will handle? How do you think Jack will handle all the crap that he's going to cop, Benny? Do you reckon he's mentally strong enough?
Mate, I think it'll be, if he's found not guilty or has the charges dismissed, I think it'll be a huge weight off his shoulders, and anything that happens after that, it'll just be whatever.
He's been through worse.
Yeah, 100%. His next big fight will be with the NRL to get a bit of recompense for the crap that they put him through. So, but he'll be keen to get out and play footy. I know I would be for sure. And yeah, he's going to cop some shit, and and I'm sure players from other clubs are going to give him a bit of a grilling when they, just tackled him and a few words in his ear and trying to gin him up. But he's a professional footballer. You know what I mean? And he's probably got a team of guys working with him, psychiatrists and psychologists and counsellors and guys within the club that have been through similar experiences and how they got through it, how they got over it. So he'll be putting the work in outside of football as well. So the best thing for him is to put that 13 on again and get out and play rugby league, and I'm sure he's been missing it. And he'll want to get on with his life, and whether he did or didn't do it, he's definitely paid a price these last 2.5 years with all the crap that's been happening. So, like I said, he'll be focused on playing footy, and that's the best thing for him. So the sooner he gets back in there, the better.
Yeah, I think it's quite amazing to think about the possibility of Jack de Belin lining up in a Dragons jersey in less than a week's time at Lidcombe Oval, of all places. It's probably not where you would expect to see him return. That place holds about 2,000 or 3,000. I reckon they'll go close to filling that joint 2,000 to 3,000 that'll get along to want to see Jack de Belin's first game back. And I hope they hire a few security guards and bouncers as well, because it could be pretty interesting discussions and conversations and all sorts of things going on in the crowd. So, hopefully they're prepared.
I mean,
Western
the amount
Suburbs
of bullshit he's going to cop, the amount of bullshit he's going to cop from the opposition supporters, it's probably better 2,000 than 22,000.
Absolutely.
But that's the thing too. Moving forward, that just because the court case is over doesn't mean this is over and it's not a part of his life anymore. He's going to have this over his head for the rest of his career and past his football career personally. So, like I said, it's up to him to be a big enough man and have broad enough shoulders to take that on board and get on with his life. So, I think it's going to be better for him. Just get on with it.
You got to look at some of the other people. Like you look at poor old Joel Monaghan. He took a photo with his face kind of close to the cock of a dog, and he got run out of town. That was it. Like he didn't actually do anything.
Todd Carney, Matty Johns, the list goes on. You know, that have stuffed up big time. I'm not saying that JDB has done it, but it's always going to be a part of our game. The professional rugby league players and professional sports people, celebrities, they're always going to have this sort of stuff where the general public is just out to get them for whatever, and they're in the public's eye all of the time. You can't fart without someone knowing what goes on. So, but that's part of the responsibilities you take on being a person in society that people do look up to. So, he's been around long enough to know how it works. So, like I said, he's just got to get on with it and play some footy.
All right, we'll get back in. We'll get into the second half, Matty. So early in the second half, Max Feeney scores his first NRL try, and the Dragons lock it up. It wasn't too long after that he got his second NRL try, so a double for Max Feeney. At this point, we're in front, leading 10 points to 6. How are you feeling about the Dragons' chances right at this moment?
I was feeling quietly confident. Obviously, it's great to see Maxie get his second try. So then when we hit the lead, I was like, okay, let's not fuck this up with a stupid short dropout or something. I'm saying that purely because Mick's not here to defend him. I was quietly confident that we might be able to hold him out. Maybe put another try or two on to help the for and against. But then, Dugan got 10 to bin, and basically all started to go downhill from there, I think.
Yeah, it was interesting that it turned out that way. So I suppose Benny and myself have sort of already talked about the Dugan tackle and his subsequent sin bin. But Youngie, what were your thoughts on the Dugan tackle and the sin bin?
Yeah, I thought Dugan, there was no real intent there. I don't think. It was just an accidental tackle. But I mean, that's just part of the game. Like it happens, and if we're going to go hardcore on it, you've either got to decide you're going to take all of them or none of them. I don't know. I don't know where you draw the line in the sand or how you fix it at the moment, but they've got to do something because it's taking fans away from the game, that's for sure.
Yeah, I certainly didn't think it was a send-off, but when you see the images and the heavy contact and the claret everywhere from the snoz of Billy Burns, I did think there was some chance that they might think it was a send-off. And there's certainly a few people that do think along those lines and did think that he might be gone for the rest of the game. But interestingly, with a man down, the Sharks actually, that was with a player down, they were able to score a try. They tried to Kennedy, who had a fantastic game for the Sharks. He had an absolutely wonderful game. He's developing. Yeah, he's developing really well as a footballer, I think, Bubba Kennedy. But that got the Sharks to the front. Then we came back. We did level it up and got into a field goal shootout. But let's have a bit of a chat now about our favourite player on this show, Corey Norman. Benny, I'll go to you because I know you love him. Just talk us through. I mean, there's a lot to break down, I think, in Corey Norman's performance throughout this game. But take us through some of your thoughts.
Yeah, I think Norman's a tough one for me. You know, like it's like I think it was a bit lackluster. Like I think Benny Hunt sort of drove the ship a bit better than Norman did. Norman definitely played better than last week. I'll give him that. He was a bit more decisive in attack, and his defence was a bit better. I think he let one bad tackle through, which led to a try. But I think his kicking game was a little bit better this week as well. But field goals
by his kicking game, mate. By his kicking game, I'm assuming you don't mean his goal kicking or his field goals.
No, I mean kicks in play. Well, he's not a goal kicker, you know, and he's filling a spot that Lomax rightfully owns, you know. And Bird obviously stepped up and took the last one. So whether that was a call from Hook or a call from Norman, you know, because Norman might have been down. Look, I've missed a couple. I think he's 1 from 5 or something like that. But you know, I'm probably pretty critical on him, and you know, I probably give him more of a hard time than I should. But for the money he's on, you know, it's probably a stale argument for me. But for the money he's on, he's just not given the results that a lot of the fans expect. And I know there's a lot of fans that love him, and you know,
I wouldn't say a lot.
I don't know. You know, I cop a bit of crap when I put stuff online about what I think of him, and there's always somebody that has an argument back. But in saying that too, like field goals are hard. There's a lot of pressure. But the two that he missed, I don't know. Like he had plenty of time. He had plenty of space. The Sharks players weren't really up, putting a lot of pressure on him. You compare that to Townsend's, you know, like obviously McCulloch had charged one of them down, and the second one I think was charged down as well. And then the third that he got through, our boys just sat on the line, didn't even move up to put pressure on him. So, yeah, I don't know. He's, like I said, he's not a goal kicker. He's sort of helping us out in that regard. And the field goals, well, yeah, I was pissed during the game, but you sort of look back now and you're like, what do you do? You missed it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not ideal.
I think field goals are always hard, and sometimes a lot of that comes down to the service that you get too. Like I don't know whether they were the best passes, and certainly the second one, which was the easier one, there was a bit of pressure coming through on that, and comes off the side of the boot and goes nowhere near it. Yeah. But he's got a couple for us in clutch situations, and I sort of look and think, well, you look at the other options we have had out on the field. Why was Norman the only bloke back there? You think about who we had on the field. We've got our $1 million captain and halfback Ben Hunt, who just disappears in clutch situations. Like he was nowhere to be seen when the game was tied up. And then you've got Adam Clune who's out there as well, can kick field goals. Even young Junior Amon, I'm pretty sure he kicked a field goal this year in the SG ball. So he's certainly capable of doing it as well. He's a bloke. None of the Sharks would have been looking at Junior Amon. You get him in there right beside the play the ball. They'd be charging through to put pressure on Norman. No one's even looking at Amon. That could have been an option for them to give it to him and say, do your best, son.
Even when we got the scrum, perfect opportunity to slot one over then. And
that's what I was saying,
we ran it. You know what I mean? It's just there's a communication breakdown somewhere along the line. Either Hunt's not standing up and making the calls, or Norman's not standing up or making the calls. Like, who's steering the ship?
Yeah.
You know, it should be clear cut. You look at Melbourne, the Roosters, Penrith, any other side is like they get in those situations and know exactly who it's going to. They know exactly how they're going to do it. They set up for it, and we sort of flail around, and it ends up being a flop. So, yeah, it's a tough one.
It could have been a very, very different attitude towards Norman. I thought he had a really unlucky start to the game. He could have had 2 try assists in the opening sort of 15, 20 minutes. He put Billy Burns with a great pass into a hole that they called forward, and I think the only people in the entire stadium that thought it was forward was the touch judge and Paul Gallen. Everyone else was bemused
No
by the fact it
surprise
was
there.
called forward. And then another one where a fantastic long ball that found Jordan Pereira all by himself, but Pereira sort of came forward, dived, and couldn't hold on to it. All he had to do was catch it, and he could have crawled across the line. He had that much space. But yeah, he could have 2 try assists in the opening sort of 20, 25 minutes or so, and I think then we'd be praising him as perhaps the hero that won us the game. But his goal kicking was awful. The missed field goals, which we've talked about. Matty, after the game, Corey Norman put a message on Instagram where basically he took responsibility for the loss, apologising to fans. A lot of fans are blaming him for the loss. But how do you feel about a player jumping on after the game and putting a message out to fans?
Well, that's a pretty massive gesture. I mean, he's obviously feeling like shit about the two field goals that he missed, and in the cold light of day, maybe he's thinking, "Oh shit! Instead of going left, I probably should have taken the shot from the scrum." But no, it takes a pretty big man to come out and say something like that. It's not something that you see very often. So look, got to take my hat off to him for that. And well, he's obviously feeling like shit about it. And look, I think he's probably got to a lot more shit than he's probably deserving of. I know we do talk a lot about him, not always praising him. And no, it is refreshing to see a player come out and say, "Sorry, I fucked up. I let you down. I'm sorry." Look, I admire him purely and simply for doing that.
Yeah, no, it was a nice little gesture from Norman to do that. I don't think any individual player should ever take responsibility for a loss. It's a team game. It's played over, I don't know, 85 minutes or whatever it was going into Golden Point extra time. There were plenty of opportunities, plenty of individual moments you could break down across that 85 minutes, and to pin it on one bloke that's utterly ridiculous in my eyes. I think as a team,
there's 16 other guys in that team. 17 if you include the 18th.
Who got used?
You can't blame one guy for missing a couple of field goals when there were other opportunities for scoring. You already touched on the Pereira run, the forward pass that was seen by only the referee and Paul Gallen. So no, you can't blame Norman solely for that. Yeah, he did miss a couple of field goals, but there are other things that happened that could have changed the result. So no, I don't think he's to blame for that at all.
Well, let's break down the back end of this game. So the last 3 minutes and Golden Point, absolutely frenetic. There were so many things that happened. Youngie, do you want to break it down for us? The last 3 minutes, the emotions you were going through, and the different incidents that had you pulling the last of your hair out.
Well, I don't have much hair left. Maybe that's because I'm a Dragons fan. I don't know. But yeah, look, I was pretty frustrated. Going back to that field goal opportunity that we had a scrum. It was a set piece. We're right in front. Who was the captain on the field at the time?
Bennett.
So couldn't he have been deciding, yes, we're not going to go left, we're just going to throw the ball back 10 metres and slide it over? The game should have been won and over by then. So for the rest of the game, I was just frustrated, I think. When Townsend took the shot, I was just thinking to myself, this should have been iced earlier. And yeah, I was feeling pretty dour about the whole thing, I guess.
Yeah, no, it was. It's an interesting one, Matt, because I could only imagine if on the first play we got a full set of 6 to set up for it, but we decide to take it on the first play. If he misses it from there, I think there's an absolute meltdown from everybody if he somehow managed to shank that from. But yeah, I agree. That was a perfect opportunity to take it. You've got. There's no chance of them racing up and putting pressure on him. Just go straight behind, directly behind the scrum. He was set up. He was there, and they decided to try and go the double bluff, and didn't work. There's a few things we did it certainly in Golden Point that just didn't work. But yeah,
High percentage play, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, you talk about that game. I mean, we had that got to level, and then Jack Bird just no ball security at all. Gets knocked out in the tackle from Dugan. That was the first one that put us under pressure. That saw McCulloch. How good was the charge down from McCulloch, Benny?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was one of those, 1% plays. Yeah, awesome individual effort. We just didn't back it up and really capitalise on it, which is a shame. But it's so good to see these guys that haven't been around the club for that long doing this sort of stuff. And even in the other game, like I think it was the Tigers, but I might have even been senior or someone, they take it off and bloody Maguire's chasing him down. You know what I mean? Had no hope in hell of catching him, and he's storming after him like his life depended on it. I love seeing that, So there's obviously some good stuff happening at the club. Otherwise, these guys wouldn't be making those efforts. So it's like I've said before, we're so critical at the moment because we're just diehard Dragons fans. And, in a couple of years' time, we're going to be looking back at these episodes and being like, why were we so critical? Like we're in the top 4 and looking at a grand final spot, like.
That's optimism for you.
We might be looking back and going, oh, that was the last good year of footy that anyone in the NRL had. So
we certainly had our chances from that effort from McCulloch. I mean, McCulloch would have, he'd be getting some high praise if we went on to ice that game, because we had some opportunities after that charge down. There was a long range effort from Norman that missed. It wasn't the best of strikes. He hit it nice and low, went over the dead ball line. And then from that 20-metre tap restart, the Sharks had a Nathan Brown, Lance Thompson moment where they just knocked on from the tap restart and gave us a great opportunity. But once again, that was...
Don't remind me about that. I remember that well. I just was shaking my head. What was that, 20 years ago? It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Well, until last Friday night, it was just a simple tap, pass, and dropped it cold. No excuse whatsoever. And the Dragons from there should have iced the game. That's where we should have won it. Norman had got into a good position, but we didn't set up well enough for it. I thought that, as I said, there were so many different options that we could have had out there to take the pressure, take the eyes, take the focus away from Norman. But he was the only point of focus. They got through. They put enough pressure on him to make him shank it. And that sent us into Golden Point extra time. And in Golden Point, a very, very ordinary missed tackle from Josh Kerr on Hiroti, Matty, that got them into the position to have a crack at the field goal in Golden Point.
Yeah, it was pretty sloppy tackle attempt, to be honest, and it's something that he, may never do again, or he might do it 100 times. But yeah, look, that for me was pretty much the close of the game.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, that got them down into the position where Townsend could set up for a field goal. They weren't going to get into a position to have a shot in that set, and he had a good shot on him. he made good first up contact and then just let him go. And Perotti went on a nice little gallop. I think he fell over before Norman could tackle him, and Norman finished off the tackle. Townsend got into position. We did charge that one down. It was Corey Norman, our fullback, was the one that actually got up and put pressure on him to charge that one down, but we weren't able to regather like we were after the McCulloch one. And then they did get the field goal, no real pressure on Townsend after a slow play the ball. So I found that very, very odd. We were able to slow down that play the ball. Ball went to Townsend, but nobody was up in his face that time. We were obviously out on our feet. He knocked it over pretty easily from 15 out right in front, and that was it. After the game, one of the things that has got a fair bit of a media attention is Jack Bird, Youngie. I'm not sure if you've seen the images of Bird in the sheds.
I did see that.
In the sheds crying, and some of the keyboard warriors having a crack at him.
Oh, to me, that was awesome. That showed his passion for the club. And if you compare that with some of the Bulldogs players yesterday, laughing and shaking hands after the game, after they just lost, there's a big difference between where we are with a guy like Jack Bird and where they're at. So I've got no problem with that at all. I mean, he was visibly devastated to lose that game, and that's what you want. I just think Jack Bird has been a really good signing for us. I think he's been really good this year. And I know that at the beginning of the year, everyone was very against Jack Bird coming. But, I mean, seriously, how good's he been? Like, he's in Origin contention at the moment. He might actually get a spot. So,
well, if he plays
and when you also
suspended, he might be the only option.
Well, I mean, that's true too. But, I mean, his form almost warrants it. He's been one of our better players. And when you also consider the Broncos are paying a good slice of his salary, how good's that signing been?
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely agree. I always thought Jack Bird was going to be a good signing so long as he could stay fit. And that was the only concern that I ever had, was that he had some injury concerns and some worries, and that was the only thing I was worried about. I wasn't worried about his ability. He's a bloody good player. He's always been a bloody good player. He's just had a bad run with injury. If he stayed on the field, he was always going to be a great signing for us, and that's the way that it is playing out. And I didn't think it was his best game. I thought he had a pretty ordinary game. I think he dropped the ball 3 or 4 times during the course of the contest. He certainly ran hard and broke through a few tackles and did Jack Bird things, but a couple of errors, a bit of loose ball security. It wasn't his best game, but he certainly he throws everything into the contest, and he had a real battle with Josh Dugan. His battle with Josh Dugan throughout the game was fantastic to watch. There was a lot of verbal barbs. I think at one stage Josh Dugan,
a lot of animosity, wasn't
it? Josh Dugan played the ball and then came forward with his head and made contact with Bird. Nothing was said about it, no replays or anything of it. But, yeah, there certainly seemed to be a fair bit of fire between them. And it obviously meant a hell of a lot to Bird. And to see him break down in the sheds, I agree. It's something that as a fan, you love to see that it means as much to them as it does to us. But Benny, seeing some of the comments and different things that he's copped on social media around it, it's just not on, is it?
No, not at all. And I give Norman a bit of a grilling at times, but never to that extent. I would never say something, about a player showing emotion or any man showing emotion like that. It's sort of that age-old, men don't cry sort of bullshit. But obviously he's passionate about rugby league. He's passionate about the club. And, there's nothing wrong with wearing your heart on your sleeve if you're that passionate about something, It was good to see. And I think all these people making those sort of comments, they've obviously never played professional sport or sport to any sort of level or never had the want or the desire to achieve anything in their life. And obviously when things don't come off, of course you get upset, and yeah, so it's all those people, like, who the fuck are you?
That just makes me more proud to have him.
Yeah, 100%. It's so good to see, and props to him. Like Youngie said, he's been a beast ever since he's come on, and I know he was a Dragons junior, so obviously there's a lot of love for the club there, which is great to see. Nothing wrong with it at all. I think it was awesome. The bad part about it was all the people carrying on like gooses afterwards, and I very much doubt they were Dragons fans. The people that were saying it, I think it's been construed in the media that it was Dragons fans making those comments, and I don't think that's true. So that's maybe something that should be clarified, because that's not a good look for the club at all. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
Any
Most
Dragons
of the
fan that's bagging him for that.
And
Sorry.
the vast majority of the comments were definitely Sharks fans, mate. I
don't know where the comment.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know where the comments were pulled from. But yeah, I guess I know we're Dragons fans. Not at all.
No. So, all right. Going into the suspensions to come out of this game, the three Sharks players, three Sharks players getting a week. But unfortunately, the Dragons have also lost Josh Kerr to suspension, so he'll miss the next game. Do you think they got the suspensions right this week, Matty?
Who knows, Donny? Look, it's a different rule for every bloody tackle. Like I'm honestly buggered if I know anymore. Kerr tackle probably was worth a week. Wouldn't anything more than that. I'd say it was over the top. But I think by the same token, I think the hit on Ramsey, that's worth at least 4 weeks. It won't get it, but it should be.
Yeah, no, I was a little surprised that both, the two that got sin bin for the Sharks both only got a week. I think even going off what the Dragons copped in the last game, I thought 2 weeks at least. I was a bit shocked by the leniency that the Sharks players got from that one. But all right, so before we get into talking about next week, I do want to have a quick chat about the reserve grade. So the reserve grade, I was a little surprised that Gerard Beale didn't play in this game. So that was a little odd. I don't know whether he's come across and he's injured, but you would have thought that he would have lined up in this one, but he didn't. Really poor start. Franklin Pele causing all sorts of headaches for the Dragons. We found ourselves down 12-0 against the Newtown Jets, but this game was a real breakout game for a youngster by the name of James Schiller. This is a name that you might want to write down in your little black book. Hasn't really attracted the hype of some of the other blokes, but he is a hell of a player. He's a kid that we've actually had on our books for a while from young, but we sort of, rather than bring him to the big smoke, we left him in young to keep developing at home rather than bringing him through the SG Ball and Harold Matt systems. He is an Illawarra Player of the Year. He came down and played in the Illawarra comp last year. But that might be why he's not getting the hype, is he hasn't come through the SG Ball system with some of these other kids. He set up 2 tries in this game, scored another one himself. Had a really good game. Was also perfect defensively with 100% efficiency, which is rare for any centre. So for him to be able to do that, I think he might be one that they can look at in the next couple of weeks. We're definitely looking for a centre to come in and fill a hole, and he's shown in the reserve grade system that he's more than capable. So hopefully he might get some chances in the coming weeks, get one of those training contracts, and might find himself with a spot. The other interesting thing from this game was Hayden Lomax. This bloke was on the NRL extended bench. He was considered by Hook as a chance of playing his NRL debut this weekend, but I'm guessing that the reserve grade coach, Russell Aitken, is not a big fan because he sat on the pine for almost the entire game. He got just 19 minutes and only got on the field after halfback Zeke Foster went off with a HIA. We were struggling defensively, running out of puff, and Hayden Lomax got left on the bench for almost the entire game. So I'm not sure what the hell was doing with that. We were technically in the hunt with about half an hour to go, but Newtown, they led 28-20 with half hour to go. They ran away with it though. We just ran out of puff. They wore us down through the middle and we ended up going down 44 points to 20. So moving into next week, Youngie, not sure where Willie Army's up at, but Jaden Sullivan should be back. We do lose Josh Kerr, and we've also got Ramsey, Jaden Hunt, and Max Feeney all trying to get through concussion protocols before another free-to-air Friday night game against the Tigers. How does this team line up? Who's going to play? Who's going to play where? Does Sullivan have to come straight into this side?
I think he does. If he's available, I'd select him and play Norman at left centre. I know that's a big call, but I've seen Norman play there before. You played Jack Bird at right centre, Norman at left centre, and bring Sullivan in. For me, I'd give him a start.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think a lot is going to depend on who else is available. If Willie Army's available, as I just said in the reserve grade wrap, I'm not sure what the hell's going on with Beale. We've just signed him, but didn't play in the reserve grade game. I'm not sure why. But yeah, Willie Army's back. If all three of those blokes are able to get through their concussion protocols, then I think it'll be very different to if they can't. Like if Ramsey can't play, if Max Feeney can't play, then I think Jaden Sullivan has to come straight back into the top grade. He has to be in there somewhere. I'm not sure where. But it's going to be another interesting team list Tuesday, that's for sure. All right, so we'll run into hang on, we've got just on a minute to go. So we will take a quick break and then we'll come back with last thoughts. We'll catch you on the other side.
Even he got closer than you, Corey Norman.
G'day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the final segment of the Mad Dragons vodcast for today. And a bit of sad news just coming through the wires, Youngie, that rugby league immortal Bob Fulton, I think the only bloke that was named an immortal while he was still playing, he's passed away. So very, very sad to hear that. I mean, such a fixture of rugby league in Australia for such a long period of time, not just as a player, but as a coach, Australian selector, all that sort of stuff after he finished. So very sad news.
Yep. Well, he was a little bit before my time as a player, but certainly as a coach, I remember him as a really good coach for Manly and for Australia. Very prolific profile. And very sad news to hear him pass away at the age of 74.
Yeah,
I guess it's a sad day.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same, mate. I didn't get to see much of him as a player. Obviously, a few videos and highlights and stuff that you see, but the fact that he was made an immortal while he was still playing sort of speaks volumes of how highly he was thought of as a player at the time, and an absolutely sensational player, and then went on to be a great coach, and was a big part of the ARL back during the Super League war as well. So he was huge through that period in getting the ARL through and keeping the game going. And very, very sad to see him go, because as I said, he was such a fixture of rugby league circles for a very, very long period of time. But sad to see him gone. But anyway, we'll move into the last thoughts from you blokes, from each of you, of the game just gone against the Sharks, or the upcoming game against the Tigers. I'll start with you, Benny.
Yeah, mate. We pretty much covered off Sharks game. I think we were definitely unlucky. I felt there was a lot more points in it than what there was. But, when you lose by 1 point, it's never easy. But we're just going to focus on next week now. And And talking about next week is similar to what I said last week with the amount of suspensions and injuries and everything else we got going on. It's really a day by day sort of thing coming into the game. The lineup changes and who's going to be fit, who's going to be ready. So, Tigers Friday night. Who knows? Who knows what could happen? I think even the Tigers game. The result. Could have gone either way, and a couple of decisions here or there can turn the whole game. So I think we would have learned a lot from the last time we caught up with him. So hopefully Hook's taken that on board and put the right changes in place, and we can get a win up. I think they're favourites at the moment, granted, but footy's footy. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, particularly with the new crackdown. I mean, they could have a player sent off in the opening 5 minutes, and it all changes. But it's going to be really interesting to see once again how our team lines up, how our blokes recover from those head knocks that they copped, as well as the suspensions and other injuries that we've already got going on. So they're going to be very interesting. Your final thoughts, Matty?
I know I said this prior to the Sharks game, but I reckon if we can tidy up the ball security a bit and sort of get the discipline under control, I think even with the sort of bits and pieces side that we're sort of dealing with at the moment, I still think we've got a decent chance. As far as tipping is concerned, depending on what the team list is like on Tuesday, I'm pretty much just thinking about flipping a coin at this point.
Yeah, no, spot on. Your final thoughts, Youngie?
The game this week, it's a real danger game for me. I don't think we want to take them lightly, and this is also a must-win game because if you look at who we got the week after, the Broncos have started to hit some form, rolled the roost as well last night. So if we don't win this, we could find ourselves on the slide pretty quickly. So we need to find some form, regardless of whatever team we put on the park. We need to find some form and start fast and start hard and grind with them. We really need to get in the groove again, or we're going to find ourselves out of the 8.
No, it really does feel like over the last couple of weeks, our season has been ripped from us with the injuries and suspensions and all those sorts of things. There's a lot going against us. It's about time we had a few things go our way. The tables have got to turn at some point, and something's got to go in our favour. Hopefully, it's this week up against the Tigers. We'll get an even run at things, and at the end of the day, it's 17 against 17. And if we get an even run, the Tigers are not that bloody good. We just need to turn up on the day, and I totally agree with you, Youngie, that we've got to win. We have to win these games. We've got some tougher games coming up towards the back end, and we've got to beat these teams that are below us on the ladder if we want to figure in finals football this year. But I think we're every chance. I think we've got some good young players. There were some great signs. I think for the most part, we were the better team against the Sharks, despite the fact that we're a dishevelled lineup. I think we looked the better team with ball in hand. I think our defence was pretty good. Just a couple of little lapses and unable to get the polish to finish things off. I think if we get things right against the Tigers, the Dragons will beat the Tigers.
That was the one that got away.
Yeah. I think we're every chance of winning this next game. Go the Dragons.
Back to